process leading to today's launch started already in 2013 with the start of the program Building a Nation, Sint Maarten National Development Plan and Institutional Strengthening. The program was developed in cooperation with the UNDP. It was built around an inclusive and engaged process and leading to 4 main outputs. Next to a national development plan, it was intended to develop a national database that would enable Sint Maarten to follow the socio-economic development of the country. It was also envisioned to create a country report outlining where Sint Maarten is pertaining to the, back then, Millennium Development Goals. 8 international goals that are now followed up by the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Related to this output, another intended output was the MDG framework, the MAF. It was an acceleration framework to identify ways to tackle the MDGs that we were lagging behind with. Besides the National Development Plan, all the above mentioned outputs were achieved. I will briefly explain the reasons why we did not achieve the NDP yet and why a national vision, an NDV, is presented today. The National Development Project encountered some let me start over. The NDP project was designed with nation building as a main objective. The inclusive approach chosen was geared towards receiving the feedback from the broader public through community dialogues that were organized. With the organization of these community dialogues, we encountered some challenges. First of all, it turned out that these community dialogues were not that easy to organize at all. The frequent changing of governments, yearly storms and hurricanes were some of the challenges that caused delays. The format used for these dialogues were furthermore too open. There was no clear framework to guide the development discussions and to receive exactly that needed to incorporate into a plan. It was not only envisioned that these dialogues would have resulted in a clear development direction, but also national ownership. We, however, realized that there is a significant gap between planning such dialogues and attracting inclusion and building national ownership for long-term goals. Another reason for not having launched a plan yet is that we are missing some crucial elements that are important for the implementation of a long-term development plan. For instance, a multi-annual budget to align all the programs and projects for the next 10 to 20 years. Taking all these lessons learned into consideration, BAC, our department, opted to revisit the approach, especially pertaining to the process and it being in conformity with our local context. In doing so, it became clear that there was a need to detach the vision from the plan and to focus on developing a vision for our country first. In doing so, a baseline study was conducted first. This baseline study gives insight as to where Sint Maarten is in terms of our development, and it also provides an understanding of our development issues. It furthermore shows where our focus of development is at the moment. Based on these realities, on our baseline study, a vision was drafted as where Sint Maarten wants to be in the next 10 years. With this vision, it's still a draft, but once it's final, we still have a journey ahead of us. A journey which I'm sure will present a lot of new challenges, but it's good to keep in mind that no great success was ever achieved without, some say failures, I say in this case challenges.
I'm going to explain to you what is a national development vision. It's important that we understand what a vision is before we go over into a plan. A vision is an umbrella document. In its basic form, a national development vision is a vision for development. It's a vision that outlines the broader developmental goals that a nation envisages for its people. In St. Martin's case, a national development vision will articulate where St. Martin sees itself as a country within the next 10 years. It's forward-thinking and affects change through responsibility and accountability. It's an opportunity for St. Martin and its people not only to set course, but also to determine outcomes. From a foreign relations perspective, a national development vision serves as a beacon for the international community and investors and donors. In speaking of a national development vision, the words we and us are crucial. These words indicate a participative approach towards nation building, as a nation is considered the sum der Delen, the sum of all its parts. As such, partners to derive to a final national development vision are not just the usual suspects, not just stakeholders, not just the private sector, but more so society and the average citizen. Which brings me to the next step for this draft national development vision. Today, the draft is being launched. As mentioned by Mrs. Ortega, this draft national development vision is a synthesis document, a synthesis of years of documents that were executed by governments, along with research, consultations, and dialogue. So now that a synthesis thereof has been drafted, the next step of the vision is vetting and validation. Vetting and validation, and that's where you come in as our partners. You are the first to receive a copy of this draft national development vision, like literally the first. From Monday, July 20th, which is coming Monday, the document will be placed online for public consumption, but it doesn't stop there. Further awareness and media will also commence to highlight the pillars and the themes within the national development vision. However, most exciting, as Andrea hinted to, will be the on-the-ground community outreach and polling. Workshops will also be organized, to which a final workshop will encompass a high-level retreat to present the outcomes of the vetting and validation process. The Department of the Interior and Kingdom Relations, BAC, looks forward to your feedback and your input, as this vision will set course for the coming years. Therefore, it's imperative that the future of St. Martin is determined as a collective. I, as manager, would like to thank Mr. Hassani Ellis, Ms. Andrea Ortega, and Ms. Nikima Hickinson. Your tenacity, knowledge, and dedication are outstanding. And with that, I will end with our slogan, growing stronger together. And this is also reflected in the vision.
Good afternoon. After the presentation by the department, as mentioned, now we will start the consultation. So with this symbolic handing over to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, he write the first draft to present this to the stakeholders and the public for the perusal, and then for us to come to the final meeting so we can establish the national development vision for St. Martin.
Thank you. Despite what has been said by the department head and the diligent workers and all of the others that have been mentioned, without them and their continuity, we wouldn't be here today. We can look back and say we could have been further based on everything that has happened, but I don't think it could have come at a better time. When I came in November, I don't know why I get emotional. Okay. When I came in November, and I was presented with where they were at the time, and as a matter of fact, because of the fall of government in September, that they'd actually pumped the brakes. I told them, no, don't stop, don't wait, continue, because based on what the consultant also was telling me, I could see that they were taking into consideration everything that had been produced from 2010, and in fact even before, but especially what the goals and dreams had been of the various governments between 2010 to 2018, 19. And they were diligently working. Despite everything that goes on wrong in this country, I can say that when I came to the Ministry of General Affairs, I was pleasantly surprised to see how much work they had actually been carrying out. So we are at a crossroads. I'm not feeling 100% today, but I could not miss being here because this is a framework for where we want to go. This government, though short-lived, has seen many challenges, had many discussions with unions, etc. And a lot of what they brought forward are also within the plans and programs of government. And seeing it kind of globally presented in this vision document gave me a sense of rust, a sense of, wow, you know, you're not just one force working towards the same goal. And for me, something that I have been promoting since, looking up a few things, you know, you always have your own ideas, but when you see what others around the world are doing, and a quote that stuck with me was eagles flying in formation. And I can't remember the exact words, but so many of us on St. Martin want the same thing for this country, but we end up fighting ourselves and then losing sight of the long-term goal. So this 10-year draft, a draft of a 10-year development plan or vision, is something I wholeheartedly support. I have had several discussions since being here with the department, and we have approved it also, this draft, in the Council of Ministers. For me, it is a great step. I don't want to say first step because it took so many steps to get here, but definitely now where we are in the discussion about St. Martin's autonomy and being, let's say, being told you have nothing in place. It was good for me to even last Friday mention those things you are presenting in your new consensus law. We want to vet them with what we have. You cannot just tell us where we need to be or what we need to do. We as a country need to decide that. And when I say we, I mean all of us. And so please have a good look through this document. Take part wholeheartedly in, let your voice be heard so that it can form part of the final document so that we can move forward. Already we are looking to see where we were, where we are, and where this document is, and what these Landspakketten entail, where they already collide. And I have asked the Council of Ministers also, because you know how it is. Every ministry is working on things, and sometimes one ministry doesn't know where the other is. However, I have asked them if they are already busy with some of the reforms, etc., to ensure that the Department of BAC, under the leadership of Ms. Gums, has it, so that when we have those discussions moving forward, we can show where we are as well as where we want to go. I know the process, Angelique told me, would take minimum 6 weeks. I don't know if we have all that time, honestly speaking, as a country, seeing where we are right now. So I would like you not to go so fast that you can't go through it, but go as fast as you can, because it is imperative that the voices of the people be heard. Some stakeholder consultations already were done while they were planning for the National Development Plan, but of course it is some years later and priorities might have accelerated or changed. So it is important that we as a country are the deciding factors in where we want to be. And I have mentioned that I have a vision for this country that we become a multi-pillar economy, and where every person has the opportunity to be the best that they can be right here. And it will require a lot. But most of all, it will require us all believing that this is possible. And so that's all I ask of you today, to receive this as our honored stakeholders in this, have as many discussions as you need to have internally, but of course also with us, so that we can take them along. We are depending on you, you are depending on us, and I believe together we can take St. Martin to the next level, but we have to do it together.